Hi, it's Robbie here from Brenco Guitars. I just want to say thanks to everybody who's been watching the series so far. This is now our final part. Special thanks gone out to my nephew Conor Mangan, who watches all our videos, to Pshink, I think I'm pronouncing his name properly, who's been watching our videos, and as well to Brendan Murphy over in Albany, New York, who's going to be doing a similar build of his own soon. So thanks all for watching, and we'll cut now to the guy setting fire to the guitar. So we've got our body hanging up now. It's by a chain, just in case anything catches fire. We've got our fire extinguisher off to one side. We've got a bucket of water. We're going to be wearing all our safety equipment and that. And just to note, when we do torch it, if we can just make out, this is the center line of the guitar just here. As that's a glue seam and this is a two-piece body. When we do torch it, that seam is going to open up slightly. So we'll be taking it nice and easy right around the center section. And if it does open up a little bit, we may come back with some filler or something like that, or some black super glue if it's very noticeable. We may not need to. So, there's nothing else to say other than...
Fire! 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 Fire!
So now we have one very crispy guitar. So completely charred all over. So we'll leave that to cool off a little bit before we move on to the next stage. So we're completely done. And like I said, if you can just make it out, you can see our center seam has opened a small bit, so we may come back and remedy that. But other than that, that's the guitar burned, and our next stage will be, we'll scrape all the soot off the surface and then we'll oil the body. So now that we've let the body cool down a bit, we're going to take a wire brush and we're just following along the grain, and we're just pushing all the soot that's now built up from inside the grain lines. So you can see as we do that, it takes out the soot and it actually makes things a little bit darker as well, which is what we're going for. So we're using Crimson Guitars penetrating guitar finishing oil. So we'll just put on a nice amount of this and just rub it all in. So after several coats of oil, this is our body, and we've got lots of lovely different shades of kind of brown and reds coming through, as well as the black. So that's the body pretty much done. We've got our neck sanded, so we'll now start to finally put the instrument together. So we're just going to do all our fret work and some minor work to the neck as well, and so we'll bring you back when that's all done. But you can see we've got our various tools here, making sure the fretboard is level, making sure the frets are level, crowned, dressed and polished, etc. And we'll bring you back when all that work is done.
Well, Uncle Rob, them frets are really shiny. Uncle Rob is putting on the headstock decal.
So we're just installing our tuners now. So we're just using a straight edge and just giving them a little tip here and there to make sure that it's all nice and straight and all pressed in. So we can just flip those over and we can add our hardware then. And we'll get these all tightened up and then we'll work on the screws on the back. So we're just getting ready to drill our screw holes here at the back of the tuners, and we've just got our drill set up here, and we've just got a little piece of tape here as a depth stop to make sure we don't go too far. So as we start to drill in, this will tell us when we've gone far enough. So we'll just work our way along all the holes here, and we know exactly when to stop. So we know now that's the exact depth we require for each of the screw holes. So we'll just keep going on ahead with each one. So we're just starting to put our screws in here, and we're just using the tweezers here, and we're just dipping them in some guitar grease, just a small amount, and then just placing that into the hole and then getting things started. And then we can just send them home now, and that little bit of grease just makes things a whole lot easier for the screws to go in, because these are very small screws and the last thing you want is to try and force them and have one of the screws break. So with the tuners in place, and we've just glued in our nut here with a small drop of super glue. We've made that bone nut ourselves. It's an entire process that we're not going to cover in this video series, but that essentially means our neck is ready to go on. So we can put that to one side now, and we can start to focus on the body and all the hardware to go in. So first thing we're doing to the body is shielding the cavities, and we're just using this copper foil here, and we've got some copper tape, etc. as well. And so we're just taking off pieces of that and sticking it in place. And we'll just go around all three cavities and do that. And we just leave a small lip of it sitting above the surface, and that will come into contact with the shielding on the underside of the bridge, the underside of the pickguard, and on the control cavity cover as well, and that will give us a nice shielded cavity. So that's our three cavities all shielded, and this is the back of our pickguard. So the theory is that with all this copper foil in contact, it makes kind of like a Faraday cage and prevents interference getting in, and with the bridge being made of metal and the control cavity, they don't need shielding on the back. So that's the idea behind it. So we'll just press on ahead now in the next few parts going in. And so what we're doing now is we're just taking our drill press and we're just using that to push the ferrules in. And we just need to go a little higher. So that's pressed in nice and hard and flush, and we'll just keep going on with the next ones. Okay, so we're ready to start assembling everything. So we've got our pickguard here and we've got our neck pickup installed. So we can just run our two wires from this through this channel in the body that we drilled earlier. So that fits on nicely, and as we said, we haven't drilled any of these holes yet for the pickguard, just in case we need to move things around a small bit just to accommodate the neck and everything else. So we're just going to run the wires just to be ready. And once we get everything wired up and we know everything's working, then we can start to secure everything down in its final position. So that's our neck pickup wires run completely straight into our cavity here, so they're ready to be soldered up. And next we're going to run our ground wire through, and then we'll install our bridge. So the next part will be putting the ground wire through. So we just have our ground wire here, and we just snip off small part at the end here, and we just spread the cable out there a bit, and then we can run the other part through the body. So we now also have our bridge ground run through, and we can just leave this here with this wire exposed, and that will make contact with the bridge when it's screwed down, and that will ground our entire guitar. So we've got most of our electronics wired up already. As we said, we were using up some spare parts we had, so we already had this pre-wired control plate, but it's very much straightforward for a Telecaster. So we're just tinning up some of the terminals. And then we're just adding there, as I said, we've got our bridge pickup here, so we've got our hot and our ground. So it's just a case of soldering them in place. Same again for the neck pickup, and then our bridge ground as well. So it's relatively straightforward, and we'll just go through it very quickly. So just before we secure everything in place, we're just giving our electronics a quick test. So our bridge pickup is working, so is our neck pickup, neck pickup only, bridge pickup only, and we'll just test for our volume. And then tone. So that means all our electronics are working, the switches are working, the output jack is working, so we can just get set to secure everything right into place now. So with all those other bits in place now, we can now get the scratch plate properly secured down. So we can just go around each of our holes, and we'll drill those out and then screw them in. So our final job is going to be install the string trees. So what we're going to do is off camera, we're going to string up the instrument, then we'll bring it back to install the string trees. So we're just going to put our string tree in place, and we've got our screw already pushed through, and we've put some more grease on the end of this little screw as well, because we definitely don't want a screw like this breaking off in the headstock. It would be very bad. So we'll just get that started. And then we just make sure we have the orientation correct. And then we can just make sure we send it home and keep it straight. And here we have the finished guitar. So we've got our maple neck and fretboard, black dot markers. Our body is ash and you saw us burning it. We got our humbucker on the bridge, single coil in the neck, standard controls, black pickguard. On the back we've got our ferrules holding everything in place. Again, string ferrules, our lovely burnt black finish, our maple neck, our tuners, strap buttons, and she's all ready to go. We'll just give her a quick setup as well, just to make sure she's absolutely perfect. But that is the final guitar.